My name is Lauren, and I never thought I would be the kind of woman who ends up on the floor of her own bathroom, clutching a pregnancy test that isn't hers. But there I was, at 32 years old, with my knees pressed against the cold tile and my hand shaking so bad I could barely read the 2 little lines. 2 lines meant positive, but the test wasn't mine. I had found it tucked inside a makeup bag that didn't belong to me, a makeup bag I found in the glove compartment of my husband's car, a makeup bag that smelled like my sister's perfume. Let me back up, because I know this sounds insane already. My name is Lauren Mitchell. I married Daniel Cross when I was 26 and he was 29. We met at a rooftop bar in downtown Austin. He was wearing a gray suit, and he had this easy laugh that made everyone around him feel comfortable. I was working in marketing, and he was in commercial real estate. We clicked immediately. He was handsome in that approachable way. Dark hair, blue eyes, a little bit of stubble that never looked messy. My family loved him from the first dinner I brought him to. My mom said he had old soul energy. My dad said he had a firm handshake and looked you in the eye. My sister Chloe said he was hot, and then winked at me like she was joking. But something about that wink always stayed with me. Chloe is 2 years younger than me. She has always been the golden child.
The one with the easy charisma, the effortless beauty, the magnetic pull that made everyone want to be near her. I love her. I have always loved her. But loving Chloe has always meant standing in her shadow. She was the homecoming queen. I was the girl who helped her pick her dress. She was the one who got a full ride to college. I was the one who took out loans. She was the one who traveled through Europe for a summer. I was the one who house sat for my parents while she was gone. I never resented her, or at least I told myself I didn't. But looking back, I think I spent my whole life accepting less because Chloe always took more. Daniel and I had a good marriage, or what I thought was a good marriage. We bought a house in the suburbs north of Austin, a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom with a backyard that backed up to a greenbelt. We talked about having kids. We tried for a while, actually, but nothing happened. I went to doctors, he went to doctors. The verdict was unexplained infertility, which is a fancy way of saying they don't know why you can't get pregnant. Daniel was supportive at first. He held my hand during appointments. He told me it would happen when it was supposed to happen. But over time, I felt him pulling away. He worked late more often. He traveled for work more often. He stopped looking at me the same way. I blamed myself. Of course I did. That's what women do. We absorb the failure. We wear it like a second skin. I thought, if I could just be better, prettier,
thinner, more fun, more adventurous, more something, then Daniel would look at me the way he used to. So I started going to the gym. I changed my diet. I bought new clothes. I tried to surprise him with date nights and weekend trips. Nothing worked. He was polite but distant. He said, "I love you," but it sounded like a reflex, not a feeling. Then Chloe moved back to Austin. She'd been living in Dallas for a few years, working at some PR firm. She got a job offer she couldn't refuse, she said. My mom was thrilled. My dad was relieved. I was happy to have my sister close again. Chloe and I had always been close, despite everything, or maybe because of everything. She was my person, the one I called when I had bad days, the one who showed up with wine when Daniel forgot her anniversary. She was messy and chaotic and sometimes selfish, but she was my sister. I trusted her with my life. Looking back, that trust was the stupidest thing I ever gave away. Chloe started coming over more often after she moved back. She said she missed our family dinners. She said she loved our house. She said Daniel was lucky to have me. She said all the right things. And Daniel seemed happier when she was around. He laughed more. He drank more. He stayed up later. I thought he was just glad to have family nearby. I thought he was just comfortable with Chloe because she was easy to be around. I didn't see it. I didn't want to see it. The first red flag was so small, I brushed it off.
I came home from work early one day and found Chloe and Daniel in the kitchen. They were standing close, not touching, but close. Chloe was laughing at something he said, and Daniel had that look he used to have with me, the one that said, "I see you, I want you." I shoved the thought down, told myself I was being paranoid. Chloe was my sister. Daniel was my husband. They would never. The second red flag was bigger. Daniel started mentioning Chloe in conversations where she didn't belong. He would say things like, "Chloe thinks we should repaint the living room," or "Chloe says that restaurant is overrated," or "Chloe mentioned a great hiking trail we should try." I remember thinking, why is my husband talking to my sister about our living room paint? But I didn't say anything. I didn't want to seem jealous. I didn't want to be the insecure wife. The third red flag was a text. I saw it flash on Daniel's phone when he was in the shower. A message from Chloe that said, "Last night was fun. We need to do that again soon." My stomach dropped, but I convinced myself she meant the dinner we all had together, the three of us plus my parents. We had tacos and margaritas. That had to be it, right? I asked Daniel about it that night, casually. I said, "Hey, what was Chloe talking about last night being fun?" He didn't even pause. He said, "Oh, she meant the dinner. She loved those margaritas." And I believed him because I wanted to believe him. Because the alternative was too ugly to hold in my hands. The affair started slowly, I think. Or maybe it started the moment Chloe moved back. Maybe it started before that. Maybe it started the first time Chloe winked at me after calling him hot. I will never know exactly when, because no one tells the truth about things like that. They tell you what they think you can handle. They tell you stories with sharp edges sanded down. I found out on a Tuesday, a random Tuesday in October. The weather was finally cooling down in Texas. Daniel had left for a work trip that morning, or so he said. He kissed my forehead and walked out the door with his roller bag, and I felt a weird sense of relief. The house felt lighter without him. That should have told me something. Instead, I just went about my day. I worked from home, I took a walk. I decided to clean out Daniel's car because he had been complaining about clutter, and I thought I was being a good wife. That's what kills me. I was being a good wife while he was being a terrible husband. I vacuumed the floor mats, I wiped down the dashboard. I opened the glove compartment to throw away old receipts, and that's when I saw it. A small leopard print makeup bag. It was not mine. I have never owned anything leopard print. I unzipped it with hands that already knew what they would find. Mascara, lipstick, a hair tie, a compact mirror, and a pregnancy test. Positive. 2 pink lines, clear as a stop sign. I sat in the driver's seat for a long time. The car was off. The garage was dark. I just sat there holding this test that belonged to someone else. Someone who was pregnant with my husband's baby. I knew it was Chloe. I didn't want it to be Chloe. I prayed to a God I don't believe in that it was anyone else. A coworker, a stranger, a one-night stand, anyone. But the perfume on the makeup bag was the same perfume Chloe had worn since high school, a vanilla jasmine blend that followed her everywhere like a second shadow. I called Chloe. She didn't answer. I texted her. She didn't respond. I drove to her apartment, which was 20 minutes away. I sat in the parking lot for another long time. Then I walked up to her door and knocked. She opened it wearing one of Daniel's old t-shirts. I recognized it because I had bought it for him on our 3rd anniversary. Chloe's face went through 5 emotions in 1 second. Surprise, confusion, fear, guilt. And then something that looked almost like relief, like she had been waiting for this moment, like the secret was crushing her, and she needed me to find it. I held up the pregnancy test. I said, "Is this yours?" She didn't answer. I said, "Is this Daniel's?" She started crying. Not the kind of crying that happens when you get caught. The kind of crying that happens when you have been holding something heavy for too long, and you finally get to put it down. She said, "Lauren, I'm so sorry." And that was all the confirmation I needed. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't throw anything. I just turned around and walked back to my car. Chloe followed me to the parking lot barefoot in Daniel's shirt. She kept saying, "Wait, please wait, let me explain." But what explanation could there be? You slept with my husband. You got pregnant. There is no explanation for that. There is only betrayal, only a wound that will never close. I drove home on autopilot. I sat on my couch in my house that suddenly felt like a stranger's house. Everything looked the same, but the air was different, heavier, poisoned. I thought about all the times Daniel held my hand at family dinners while Chloe sat across from us. I thought about all the times my mom said how wonderful it was that Daniel and Chloe got along so well. I thought about all the times I felt like a third wheel in my own marriage. And I finally let myself feel the anger. It came in waves, cold, then hot, then cold again. I was angry at Daniel for breaking his vows. I was angry at Chloe for breaking my trust. But the anger that surprised me the most was the anger at my parents, because they had to have known, or at least they had to have suspected. My mom is not stupid. She notices everything. She notices when I lose 5 pounds. She notices when I change my hair. She would have noticed Daniel and Chloe looking at each other the way they must have been looking. And she didn't say anything. She didn't warn me. She let me keep living in a lie while she watched from the sidelines.
I decided not to confront Daniel right away. I wanted to be smart about this. I wanted to gather evidence. I wanted to understand the full shape of the betrayal before I blew up my life. So I acted normal. I texted Daniel asking how his trip was going. He said, "Good, miss you." 2 words, miss you. Like I was a dog he left at home. I played along. I said, miss you too. The lie felt disgusting on my tongue, but I swallowed it. The next few days were a masterclass in pretending. I went to work, I smiled at my colleagues, I answered emails, I attended meetings, I came home and made dinner. I watched TV. I slept in the same bed as Daniel. He had no idea that I knew. He kissed me goodnight. He told me he loved me. He rolled over and fell asleep while I stared at the ceiling with my eyes wide open in the dark. I started digging. I checked Daniel's phone while he was in the shower. I found texts between him and Chloe going back almost a year. A year. They had been carrying on for a year right under my nose. The texts were explicit. They talked about meeting up, about missing each other, about how hard it was to pretend around me. One text from Daniel said, "Sometimes I wish I had met you first." Another from Chloe said, "We should just tell her." Tell her what? That my husband and my sister were in love? That my marriage was a joke? That my life was a placeholder for their real relationship? I took screenshots. I sent them to myself. I deleted the evidence from his phone. I was methodical. I was calm. I was a woman possessed by a mission. I also checked Daniel's email, his bank statements, his location history. I found hotel charges, restaurant charges, a charge for a jewelry store. I checked Chloe's social media. She had posted photos of a necklace a few weeks ago, a thin gold chain with a small heart charm. I recognized it because Daniel had given me the exact same necklace 2 years ago for my birthday. He said he picked it out himself because the heart reminded him of me. Turns out he just had a favorite necklace for the women in his life. The breaking point came on a Sunday. My parents had invited us over for dinner. Daniel and I went together. Chloe was there too. She sat across from me at the dining table like nothing had happened. My mom served pot roast. My dad opened a bottle of wine. Everyone was laughing and talking like it was any other family dinner. But I was watching. I was watching Daniel's eyes drift to Chloe every few minutes. I was watching Chloe's hand rest on her stomach in a way that seemed protective. I was watching my mom refill Daniel's glass before he even asked. And I realized something. My mom knew. She absolutely knew. And she was helping them. Maybe not directly, but she was creating the environment, the excuses, the cover stories, the dinner parties where they could sit across from each other and pretend they weren't planning a future without me. I excused myself to the bathroom. I stood in front of the mirror and looked at my own face. I looked tired. I looked older than 32. I looked like someone who had been betrayed by everyone she loved. And in that moment, I decided I wasn't going to be the victim anymore. I wasn't going to cry or beg or scream. I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of watching me fall apart. I was going to destroy them. Not with violence, not with drama, but with precision, with patience, with the kind of revenge that takes time to build and lasts forever. I went back to the table and smiled. I asked Chloe how she was feeling. She said, "Good, a little tired." I said, "Maybe you should see a doctor, just to check." Her face went pale. My mom stopped chewing. Daniel's hand froze on his wine glass. The table went silent for one perfect second. Then I laughed and said, "I'm just kidding, you look great." And everyone laughed too. Nervous laughter, guilty laughter. But I heard it. I heard the fear underneath. That night, I started my plan. I contacted a lawyer, a woman named Susan who specialized in divorce cases with infidelity. I told her everything, showed her the screenshots, the bank statements, the location history. She said I had enough for a very favorable settlement. But I told her I didn't just want a settlement. I wanted blood. Susan smiled. She said she understood. I also started documenting everything. I put a voice-activated recorder in Daniel's car. I installed a hidden camera in our living room.
I knew this was legally tricky, but I didn't care. I needed to know what he said when I wasn't there. The recorder caught him talking to Chloe on the phone one night while he was driving home. He said, "Lauren is acting weird. I think she might suspect something." Chloe said, "She can't find out. Not yet. I'm almost 12 weeks. We need to figure out our plan." Daniel said, I know. I'll talk to your parents tomorrow." Your parents, not my parents, her parents. Because my parents had already chosen sides. They had already decided that Chloe and Daniel were the real couple. I was just an obstacle. The camera in the living room caught something even worse. My mom came over one afternoon when I was at work. She let herself in with the key I had given her for emergencies. She sat down with Daniel at the kitchen table. They talked in low voices. My mom said, "Lauren is going to be devastated, but she will get over it. She always gets over things." Daniel said, "I never meant for this to happen." My mom said, "I know, sweetheart, but you and Chloe are meant to be together. Anyone can see that. Anyone can see that, including my own mother." I played that recording 3 times. Each time I felt a piece of my heart turn to stone. I realized that my family had been gaslighting me for years, making me feel crazy for noticing things that were actually happening, making me feel insecure for being suspicious. They had constructed an entire reality where I was the problem, where my feelings were invalid, where my marriage was expendable, and Chloe was the hero who was finally giving Daniel what he really wanted: a baby, a family, a future. I stopped eating. I stopped sleeping. I lost 12 pounds in 2 weeks. My coworkers asked if I was okay. I said I was fine, just stressed. My boss pulled me aside and asked if everything was all right at home. I said everything was great. I lied so much during those weeks that I started to forget what the truth felt like. The truth was that my husband had impregnated my sister. The truth was that my mother was helping them plan their future. The truth was that my father was too weak to stop any of it. The truth was that I was completely alone. But I kept executing my plan. Susan and I filed for divorce on a Friday. We filed it under seal, so Daniel wouldn't know right away. We also filed a separate civil suit against Chloe for what's called alienation of affection. It's a law in some states that allows a spouse to sue a third party for interfering in a marriage. Texas has it, and I intended to use it. I wanted Chloe to pay, not just emotionally, but financially. I wanted her to feel what it was like to lose something. The same day we filed, I called my parents. I told them I needed to see them alone. No Daniel, no Chloe, just me. My mom hesitated. She said, "Is everything okay?" I said, "No, Mom, everything is not okay." And I hung up before she could respond. I drove to their house that evening. I walked in and sat down on the couch where I had sat 1,000 times before. My parents sat across from me on the love seat. My mom had her concerned face on. My dad had his neutral face on. I looked at them for a long time. Then I pulled out my phone and played the recording of my mom telling Daniel that he and Chloe were meant to be together. My mom's face crumbled. My dad looked at the floor. I said, "How long?" My mom said, "Lauren, please let us explain." I said, "How long?" She started crying. She said, "We didn't want to hurt you." I laughed. I actually laughed. I said, "You didn't want to hurt me? You helped my husband cheat on me with my sister. You gave them a key to our house. You covered for them. You lied to my face, and you didn't want to hurt me." My mom said, "It just happened. These things just happen sometimes." I said, "No, Mom. These things don't just happen. People make choices. You made choices. Daniel made choices. Chloe made choices. And now you get to live with the consequences of those choices." I told them about the divorce. I told them about the civil suit against Chloe. I told them that I was cutting them out of my life completely. No contact, no forgiveness, no second chances. My mom sobbed. My dad finally looked up and said, "Lauren, maybe we can work through this as a family." I said, "There is no family. You destroyed it." And I walked out the door. The fallout was nuclear. Daniel was served with divorce papers the next day. He came home white as a ghost. He tried to talk to me, but I wouldn't let him. I handed him a bag. I said, "You have 30 minutes to pack what you need. Then you're leaving." He said, "Lauren, please, I love you." I said, "You love Chloe. You got her pregnant. You don't get to love both of us." He tried to deny it at first, said the baby wasn't his. I played the recording of him talking to Chloe about being almost 12 weeks. He shut up. He packed his bag. He left. Chloe called me 47 times. I counted. I didn't answer any of them. She texted me walls of texts, apologies, excuses, blame. She said I was being cruel. She said I was destroying the family. She said I should be happy for her because she finally found love. I screenshotted every message and sent them to Susan. My mom showed up at my house 3 days later. She banged on the door until the neighbors came out. I didn't open it. I called the police and told them there was a trespasser. They came and escorted her off my property. She screamed my name the whole time. "Lauren, please, Lauren, don't do this. Lauren, I'm your mother." I watched from the window with a blank face. I didn't feel anything. That was the scariest part. I didn't feel a single thing. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. I got the house, I got the car, I got half of Daniel's retirement account. I got alimony. I got everything I asked for. Daniel tried to fight it, but Susan was ruthless. She presented the evidence of infidelity, the texts, the recordings, the bank statements. The judge looked at Daniel like he was something stuck to the bottom of her shoe. She awarded me everything and more. The civil suit against Chloe went to trial 6 months later. It was a closed hearing, but I was there. I sat in the front row while Chloe cried on the stand. She tried to paint herself as a victim, said she was vulnerable, said Daniel pursued her, said she was lonely. But I had evidence. Text messages where she initiated contact, where she sent him photos, where she told him she didn't care about me. The jury awarded me $200,000. Chloe had to sell her apartment to pay it. She moved back in with my parents, the 3 of them together in that house, all the people who chose each other over me. I haven't spoken to any of them in over a year. I hear things through mutual friends. Daniel and Chloe had the baby, a girl. They named her Lauren. I don't know if that was meant as an apology or an insult. I don't care. My mom has tried to reach out a few times. Birthday cards, Christmas gifts, letters that start with, "I know you're angry, but..." I return everything unopened. My dad sent me a text last month. Just 2 words. "I'm sorry." I deleted it. People ask me if I'm happy. I don't know if happy is the right word. I'm free. That's the word I use. Free from people who didn't value me. Free from a marriage that was built on lies. Free from a family that made me feel small so they could feel big. I live alone now, in the house that was supposed to be our family home. I've redecorated, painted the walls, bought new furniture. The house feels like mine now, not ours, mine. Some nights I still wake up at 3 in the morning with my heart pounding. I remember the look on Chloe's face when I held up that pregnancy test. I remember the sound of my mom's voice on that recording. I remember Daniel's hand on my waist the night before he left. But the memories don't hurt the way they used to. They feel distant, like a movie I watched a long time ago. The main character was someone I used to know. I started therapy 6 months ago. My therapist says I have complex grief.
She says I'm mourning not just my marriage, but my entire family structure. She says it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to feel nothing at all. I'm learning to give myself permission to feel whatever comes. No more pretending, no more performing happiness for people who don't deserve to see it. I'm dating again, slowly, carefully. I went out with a guy named Matt last week. He's an architect. He has kind eyes, and he didn't ask too many questions about my past. We had coffee. We talked about normal things, work, hobbies, the weather. It felt strange to be normal, to sit across from someone who didn't know about Daniel or Chloe or the pregnancy test. Someone who saw me as just a woman, not a victim, not a survivor, just a woman. I don't know if I'll ever get married again. I don't know if I'll ever have kids. The infertility was never really unexplained. Turns out I have a condition that makes pregnancy difficult, but not impossible. Daniel just didn't want to try alternative options. He didn't want to try that hard for me. He was waiting for an easier path. And Chloe gave him that path. A baby, a family, a clean slate. I hope they're happy together. I really do. Because if they're not happy, then what was the point? What was the point of tearing me apart if they weren't going to build something beautiful from the pieces? But that's not my problem anymore. My problem is learning how to trust again, how to love again, how to exist in a world where the people who were supposed to protect me turned out to be the ones holding the knife. It's slow work, hard work. Some days I feel like I'm climbing a mountain made of glass. Some days I don't get out of bed. Some days I cry in the shower until the water runs cold. But I always get up the next day. I always make coffee. I always go to work. I always keep moving. Because the best revenge isn't the lawsuit or the money or watching them suffer. The best revenge is living well, is building a life so full and so rich that they become irrelevant, is waking up one day and realizing you haven't thought about them in weeks, is looking in the mirror and seeing someone who survived something that should have broken her. Someone who came out the other side, not unscarred, but unbroken. I still have the pregnancy test, the one I found in Daniel's car. I kept it in a box in my closet. I don't know why. Maybe as a reminder, maybe as proof. Maybe because some part of me needs to hold it sometimes and remember that the pain was real, that I didn't imagine it, that I didn't overreact, that I was right to be angry, that I was right to leave, that I was right to burn it all down. Last week, I took the box out of my closet. I opened it. I looked at those 2 pink lines one more time. Then I walked to the kitchen. I threw the test in the trash. I took the trash out to the curb, and I watched the garbage truck take it away the next morning. It felt like closing a book. Not burning it, not throwing it away, just closing it, putting it on a shelf, moving on to the next story. My story isn't over. It's just different now. I'm different now. I'm harder in some ways, softer in others. I don't trust easily, but when I do, I trust deeply. I don't love recklessly, but when I love completely. I've learned that family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up, who stays, who chooses you when choosing you is hard. I've built a new family. Friends, coworkers, a neighbor who brings me soup when I'm sick, a therapist who listens without judgment, a cat I adopted from the shelter who sleeps on my chest every night. Daniel's brother actually reached out to me recently. His name is Mark. He's the only one in that family who didn't take sides. He said he was ashamed of what Daniel did. He said he always thought I was too good for his brother. We had dinner last month, just friends. He told me that Daniel and Chloe are struggling, that the money from the lawsuit set them back, that my parents have been fighting constantly, that the baby is healthy, but the relationship is not. He said Daniel looks tired all the time, like a man who got what he wanted and then realized he didn't want it. I didn't feel good hearing that. I didn't feel bad either. I just felt nothing, which I think is the healthiest response I could have. Indifference. Not love, not hate.
just the quiet absence of caring. That's where healing lives, in the space between I hate you and I love you, in the place where their choices no longer have the power to move you. I'm writing this because someone told me that telling the story helps, that putting it into words makes it real, and making it real takes away its power. I don't know if that's true, but I do know that I feel lighter having written it down, like I'm handing a heavy bag to someone else, like I'm saying, here, hold this for a while. I need to rest. So if you're reading this and you're in the middle of your own betrayal, if your husband is lying to you, if your sister is sleeping with him, if your mother is covering for them, I want you to know that you will survive it. Not because you're strong, not because you're brave, but because you have no choice, because the only way out is through.
Because on the other side of the pain is a version of you that doesn't need their love anymore, a version of you that loves herself enough to walk away. I'm that version now. I'm Lauren. I'm 34 years old. I live alone in a house that I love. I have a cat named Pepper. I have friends who would kill for me. I have a future that doesn't include any of the people who broke me. And for the first time in a long time, I'm excited to see what happens next. My family helped my husband cheat. They never expected my revenge. But my revenge wasn't the lawsuit, or the money, or watching them fall apart. My revenge was surviving. My revenge was thriving. My revenge was becoming someone they no longer had the power to hurt. And that's a revenge I wouldn't trade for anything.